right. Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Hello, everyone.
So back, we have an episode that I'm really excited about today. We have Mr. Joe Perez here. How you doing, Joe?
Good. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
So let's start off. Just kind of introduce yourself to us. Tell us, what you do for work. You can tell us about your family. What you do on a normal basis. What are some things that you would tell somebody to describe yourself if they didn't know you?
So I'm a real estate flipper, but not a mother flipper. and for those of you out there, get used to my dry humor, my Sahara dry humor. So
It's dad humor.
yeah, it's bad. It's raunchy and dry, but
Perfect for the show.
yeah. And I've been investing in real estate now and working in real estate for, 23, 24 years. I live here locally in Chino Hills, and I'm married. I have a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful daughters. In total, I have 3 daughters, and one of them just started at USC.
Congratulations.
And thanks. And my pocketbook, still feeling it, No.
Wait, you're paying for your kids?
Yeah.
You're a good
She
dad.
got a very small amount for academic, but yeah. And but you know what? She wants to follow in my footsteps. She wants to be a real estate developer. So the way I look at it is that money I'm going to spend in college, I'll get it back on her first deal. You know what I mean? And my typical day is I come to my office. I got an awesome staff. I train jiu-jitsu and MMA with Mike over here, and that's cool. It keeps me strong and keeps me healthy. And then I'm a major foodie. I love to go out, try like different restaurants, try all kinds of like fusion. I like having my fancy craft beer and craft cocktails and wine and all that. And we take a lot of vacations. We just came back from Europe. We went to Greece. We went to Italy. We went to Malta, which is a small island off of Sicily. We went to Turkey, and then came back, relaxed for a bit. We went to Cancun. So we're always trying to do cool stuff. And as this podcast continues, you guys will understand why I try to live life more, and I'm doing more stuff.
Tell Josiah here about your restaurant you own. He'll be excited about that.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess the first thing I want to say is that I can curse. I can say something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck you want.
So, or say the fuck I want. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to fuck somebody over really bad, buy him a restaurant. Okay. Because that will be a living hell. And I also have this real estate program called Flipping Unleashed. And so for all you want to check it out, it's on YouTube. It's called Flipping Unleashed. I teach people how to flip in real estate. And one of the things I talk about is that in my world, when you fuck up, sometimes you're in hell, or sometimes you're in hell, right? And which I guess you guys can guess which one's worse than the other, right?
Right. Just
Owning a restaurant is hell. And, some people go through a midlife crisis and they get all tatted up and they divorce their wife and marry a girl half their age and get a red candy apple red Corvette, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to put my wife through that. I'm just going to go get a restaurant, So we got a pokey place. And
I was looking for.
Yeah.
love pokey.
But this one was kind of unique because we also had a full kitchen and we hired a badass chef so he could create Hawaiian inspired dishes. But the truth of it is, it's a tough business.
Yeah.
You got to be there all the time. It was in Costa Mesa, about 45 minutes from my house. Employees flake out. They show up buzzed, high, or they don't show up. They steal from you. It's very management intensive. Your wife's always stressed out, say goodbye to your sex life for a while because she's always angry, it was an experiment we tried for a while, and, it could have worked had we, had the ability to be more hands-on, but it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm a real estate investor. The amount of money that we can make there in 1 month, or in 6 months, I'll make it, 5 times that on one deal. And then my wife, she's a great mom, and we're putting a kid in college, and our kids are really involved in all kinds of activities and all that. So it was very tough for us to be hands-on all the time, Mm-hmm. And so I just got tired of my wife being stressed out all the time, and I finally just said, fuck it one day. And we sold it, and our life's better. And some of my office staff is in here, but I just want to say that Sex Life's better, and certain organs in my body have returned back to normal size because we're not all stressed out all the time. So we're a lot happier now.
That's good.
Well, so speaking of stress, let's talk about the main thing we're here to talk
Sure.
about. So
Oh, you mean it's not about real estate or?
yeah, no, we got that out of the way.
Well,
Or your
my
sex
favorite
life.
plate of chicken I make.
Yeah, so something you alluded to earlier, you're talking about living life to the fullest. So it's something big. I know that something big happened to you, and something big happened to you before that too, earlier on in your life. So let us in on that.
Right. Well, so in my my early 40s, I was in law school, living a very stressful life. I was going to school full time. I was a father full time. I was working full time, and just pushing it, not taking care of myself or anything like that. And so I ended up having a heart attack, which resulted in me having to have open heart surgery.
How old were you?
I think I was 40 or 41. Yeah, I think I was like 41. Yeah, and so that was like a big eye opener for me. I immediately changed my life. I cut out all the bad habits, started eating healthier, started exercising, and it just really helped put life in perspective.
I've heard the story from Mike secondhand of the actual experience, the heart attack.
Well,
It's-
this was before.
Oh, okay.
This was
Yeah.
this
So
happened.
you already had a heart
This
attack.
happened before he had ever come even
Yeah,
train with me. I
yeah.
had never met him before.
Oh, okay.
that point.
Yeah. So doctors give you the go ahead. You go through your rehab and all that, and I'm feeling pretty good. And so years later, fast forward to about I don't know. It's happened 2 years ago in November. So what's that? Happened about
A year and
So 5 years.
9 months.
Yeah.
Oh,
So 5 years or 4 or 5. Yeah, about 5 years later. I've been training MMA for years now, and I had done it on and off throughout my life. And that day was a particularly rough workout because we were doing takedown drills, and I got paired off with some college type wrestler. I forgot his name. Remember his name? Andrew, yeah. And the guy, to me, was built like a bulldog, and he felt like a bulldog, And one thing about takedown drills is either or is tiring. If you're taking someone down constantly, that's tiring as hell. And if you're being the one taken down, that's tiring as hell, And then afterwards, we rolled, and rolling as in we started wrestling, jiu-jitsu style, and all that. And I ended up being with him, and I was really, really tough. And I don't remember. I think Mike, we did 4 or 5 rounds that day, 5-minute rounds, I think it were.
Yeah, it was the 4 to 5 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
So it was a really rough day. And then Mike and I are kind of at odds on this. I say he called burpees at the end of class. I think you say it was mountain hikers.
No, it was sprawls. I
Sprawls.
had to do 25 sprawls, and
Asshole.
he's like, and
Like you're
well, no, I didn't just make him do it, but it was like the cash out, and then so I said, okay, guys, you guys owe me 25 sprawls, and come up, touch your partner's hands, but go down and sprawl. And Joe was sitting there. He was already really tired, and he's like, I don't know if I'm tired, dude. I'm tired, and I was like,
Turns out
but
that
and then,
Mike thought there was a billing issue, but I had the proof, so he gave me extra work.
No, but and I was one of the only people at the gym. I might have been the only one that knew about his condition before, right? So I know he was like, I'm a little tired, and I was like, you just be honest with yourself. Are you trying to get out of it because it's hard, or are you actually not feeling well? If you're not feeling well, don't do it. And he was like, okay, I'm going to do it, and he muscled through it, and then
Did I? I don't remember completing it.
you did. You muscled through the
Well,
whole
I
thing?
say because even to this day, some of my memory is foggy as to the actual events that day.
Yeah. And yeah, so do you want me to take it from here? Because I think I remember it a little
Sure.
differently than you. But so, so he goes and he does this. He does the sprawls or burpees or whatever they're going to be. And he finishes. I gave him a high five. I was proud of him. He sat down. And this was at the time when I was before I was living with Vanessa, before I was married, so I was by myself. So I'd always take Morrison, my dog, to the gym with me. And so I had him in the back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go walk him real quick. I'll be right back.
Big chocolate Labrador with a crazy bark, by the way.
Yeah.
I've met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the viewers, in case they're wondering,
And then so I take
Morris is not Mike's secret lover.
so I take him out from the back and I go to walk him, and normally I take him across the street, and for some reason I was like, I'm just gonna take him right here to pee real quick so I can get back to the gym fast. And I come back and I'm walking in and I see Joe, and he's just like staring off. I'm like, hey, are you okay? And he says no. And Joe, normally he fucks around, and I was like, okay, yeah. And I looked at him and he was like kind of like out of it, and he's like looking at me. He's like, I'm gonna sit on the ground, and he sat on the ground. And then I was like, hey, you okay? And he was looking at me. I was like, Joe, you okay? And I started, and it was weird, but I like rubbed his chest because that's like I would know he's got a scar there or whatever. And then he's looking at me, and then he starts looking through me, and he started looking past me. And I was like, oh shit. And then he laid down. I was like, lay down. I was rubbing his chest, and
I think I already was laying down by that time. Though.
you were sat up when you were looking at me. Yeah.
When you were rubbing my chest, I remember like.
Well, it was till you went down, and then so we had. Luckily, this is the craziest part of the story, or one of it is one of my other students that day was an EMT. So he's going. I'm like Brian. His name is Brian. I'm like, Brian, can you go over and check on him? I don't know. Is it because at this point I think he's like passed out? What happened? And I was like, okay, did he pass out or is he not breathing? I couldn't tell. And Brian comes up and Morrison starts barking at him. He's like, Morrison's guarding Joe because he knew Joe at that point. And
I used to play with him, so the dog was like protective of me.
Yeah.
Wait, Morrison likes you? He doesn't like many people.
Well, he knew because
Really?
he knew him when he was a puppy. He
okay, so
Plus,
it's a
I
little
used
different.
to play with him, and
okay.
you know.
But anyway, so Brian comes over and he's checking his pulse, and then he's all call 911, call 911. I ran over, called 911. He starts cutting his rash guard off, starts performing CPR. He ends up having Andrew, the same kid he was going with, go to the car and get his kit. I'm on the phone with emergency 911, and they're telling me how to do the CPR. I'm like, we already have somebody here doing it. He's out the entire time. Like, he's not moving. I think Brian did CPR on him for about 7-8 minutes, chest compressions.
Yeah,
and then,
about 8 minutes, yeah.
And then we were just about to send Andrew to go get an AED to shock him and bring him in. And so finally the ambulance shows up. So finally they show up and they come in and they take over and do everything there. And I think, long story short, they ended up taking him out. He never came to in the gym, took him out. I thinking Joe just died, right, at that point.
Right. Real quick, Sergeant, one thing you glossed over is I had gone into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
And so my heart just stopped, So that's why he couldn't tell. And that's why Brian immediately said, call 911.
Yeah. And how long were you without a pulse?
The records show 13 minutes. So they based that on the 8 minutes that from the time that you called for the paramedics to show up, and then it took them 5 more minutes to stabilize me and get a pulse. That's 13 minutes. But I think it's a little bit more, because I think if you look back at the events, by like you figuring out what's wrong with me and you deciding, like,
it's probably like at least another minute
or two.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
If you were outside, and who knows how long I had already been,
Yeah. And what they can call it death at 6 minutes.
Yes.
And they continued on Joe and got him back.
Yeah,
so-
they're legally allowed to call it because your heart and your brain begin to like transform. Even if they do bring you back, they transform to the point where they like lack a certain vitality. So,
So what was it like? Like what was it like from your standpoint? Like, so this is for me what I saw from my standpoint. When I remember I was there. But once, like, what were you seeing? What do you remember? Do you remember the people doing compressions on you? Do you remember being in the ambulance? What do you remember?
I remember you telling me, "Are you okay?" and you rubbing my chest. I remember that. I don't remember much more. I mean, after that, I remember in the ambulance at one point them saying something to me, and by then I began to reason, like, I'm in an ambulance, something's happening to me, and I told them my name and my date of birth. I yelled it out real loud because I was almost thinking like they needed like insurance information or something or whatever. So some part of my brain was beginning to recognize that part of it. But I went in and out of consciousness a lot that day, and so I remember things in pieces, and I remember a lot of crazy visions and memories, and I guess we could, go through those. But yeah, you don't just get the shock in your back. It takes time for your body. I mean, I got to the hospital when complete organ failure. A bunch of my organs were failing and everything. And I was really lucky because they gave Bryant, the city and the fire department gave him a medal for saving my life. And so when we were there, a lot of firefighters were there, and I was able to talk to the ones, the paramedics who showed up, which incidentally, to this day, we're still friends, and you've met them at some of my functions. And so they were telling me that, they whispered in my ear, because I was talking about, like, hey, like, what's this like? And you guys went so long, and, and they basically explained to me that it was very motivational for them to pick me up in an MMA gym. That said, like, okay, because they were telling me that when you do CPR the right way, you can crack an old person's ribs. Most times they don't want to do that. Like it gets to the point where you could see why older people don't survive. But in their mindset, they were like, wait a second, we picked this guy up at an MMA gym, and he told me, one of the firefighters, that him and his partner had kind of like made a vow to themselves, like, we're going to save this guy, like, no matter what. Because they saw me, I look younger, and they picked me up in an MMA gym. It was not common to people like that to have cardiac arrest, So I was really fortunate that they were like determined. And the happiest moment of their life was when they said they saw sweat. He said when they saw sweat, and it's funny because I had gone out in the middle of a badass workout. So what does your body remember when you come to? That badass workout, your heart's elevated, you're perspiring, and plus everything I went through. And so ever since then, I kind of coined a phrase to myself, and that's dead men don't sweat, And so whenever something's going on or whatever, someone's bitching and complaining, I'm like, just remember, dead men don't sweat, And, on a side note, one thing that was really crazy is I never had men that I never met before in my life look at me and talk to me with such great love, even to this day. It's like they feel like they gave birth to me or something, And to them, it's just been a complete eye-opening experience that has just changed everything in their life. It's like an Olympic athlete. Their entire goal is to one day win a gold medal for the country. Well, for a firefighter / paramedic, those EMTs, their biggest thing is to save a life, a meaningful life, And they've gotten to know me, and they've met my wife, my kids, see how I live. They've invited me to have dinner at the firehouse on multiple occasions. So it all like comes together for them. And so these guys, it's amazing how they look at me, and I can just sense the love. I mean, there's like this bond there for them,
And that's how you know that what happened is really special, that these guys are around. Like you said, I met Philip, right? I met him at your grand opening, and, he's around some part of your life, and these guys are checking up on you because what happened to you is kind of normal, but in a sense, but you coming back from that is not normal.
No, what happened to me is really not that normal. And then my recovery, what happened to me puts me in the 1%. Actually, no, you're right. Cardiac arrest might be 2 or 3% of the population, But what my recovery puts me in probably 1/10 of 1%, because I made a full recovery for the most part. Now, I don't know why, but ever since then, I like to take off my clothes and eat crackers in the nude in my closet. But everything else, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding about it.
First time I'm hearing that joke.
Yeah. So you might want to keep the saltines away from me. But my wife was letting me eat crackers at a restaurant, by the way.
Well, and you're kind of going into how your recovery, and I think one of the biggest things is your ability to function normally without having oxygen to your brain for that long. Your ability to speak, your ability to remember things. Like, I know your memory was bad for a little while, but it's back now. You know what I mean? And you've worked really hard at it, and that to me is one of the most amazing things.
And people don't know that MMA is actually, I think it's a sport of intelligence. Some people who don't know think it's just a bunch of brute force and all that. And the way you have to like strategize, remember combinations. Just today, Mike and I were drilling 6, 7, 8 strike combinations that I had down packed. And it's not easy to remember 6, 7, 8 things, all the punches, the rolls, and the kicks, and the slips, and all that. And when I first came back to train with Mike again, I wasn't like anything beyond 1 or 2 shots, a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3. That's it. Beyond that, it was difficult for me. And but just talk about what we were saying earlier. You know, the fire department, they normally drop you off at the hospital and you're done. Well, they actually came to see me the next day, and which that in itself was a rarity. And afterwards, I found out why. They said because when they, fire departments spend a lot of time at the hospital. They were telling me that only 3% of their calls are fires. Everything else is medical, So they're really almost like doctors, so to speak, And so they were telling me that when they came back the next day, they heard what floor I was on. In other words, I started at CCU, which is critical care, which is the highest. Then I went to ICU, intensive care. And then there's one below that, I forgot what it's called, but it's basically like where they monitor you for like 24, 48, and if everything's fine, they let you go, And when they found out what floor I was on, they were just shocked. They were like, WTF, how can this guy be there? They thought for sure I'd be like in some sort of vegetative state or in a coma or maybe didn't even make it, So just to put in perspective, like how special it is, because if anybody sees stuff all the time, it's medical professionals. And I had all kinds of doctors, ER doctors come up to me, like this is the guy, and telling me, do you know how lucky you are? Do you know how lucky? In the beginning, a lot of them yelled at me because they thought it was the MMA that had caused it, But they don't know for sure, but what they do know is that it wasn't a heart attack, it wasn't stroke-based, it was electrical-based. And so the electrical base, it could be because I had some scarring from my heart attack, could have been that. And if that was the case, that could have happened anywhere. Could have happened in the grocery store, could have happened, Or, which is what I think is more plausible, is that I had been training hard in those days. I think I'd gone like 5, 6 days in a row. And
we were thinking about you doing like an amateur fight.
Yeah, exactly. We were. Some fight in a little restaurant, with get
Ammo,
up there and go 3 rounds. Yeah, that was like my dream. Just one time, go up there and just be done with it. And then every time somebody came over to my house, we'd be like, hey, can I show you a video real quick? You know what I mean? And, so I trained really hard. And a big mistake that I made is that, I'm like, in those days, I was about 225. I should be drinking at least 100 ounces of water a day. And if I trained those days, I should have probably been like 130, 140 ounces. I think those days I was putting down, best case scenario, like 40 ounces. And I think a compilation of that, I think that my electrolytes combined with that badass workout of that day, I think it was just, and then again, like in regular heartbeat, the perfect storm. But because of my history, they were like, no, just in case, we're going to put a device in you. So I have a device inside of me. It's like a cousin to a pacemaker that basically just monitors my heart, recognizes if I ever going to go in cardiac arrest again. And what it'll do is it'll zap it or slow it down before my heart can go into cardiac arrest, But since then, I've been fine. I haven't had any shocks or anything else. I became vegetarian. I decided to take it to the next level. I'm like, you know what? I don't ever want to be in a damn hospital again.
Yeah. What did you lost at like 35 pounds, right? You're down below 200. You're running. You and I are training 3 times a week, and you're running on your off days about 3 miles every day.
Yeah.
The most serious I've ever taken. It took his vegetarian diet really seriously. It was really inspiring to see. What you have a question?
Would you say he's a cyborg then?
Yeah. Joseph.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
No.
What cyborg are we talking about?
The last podcast we did or stream we did was on AI and integration of technology into the human body. How it's it's coming in the.
Well, that machine they put into me. I have really good insurance, and the salespeople always sell the doctor on the Rolls Royce. So supposedly, what I have in me. It's something half the size of a deck of cards, and I think it's like $80,000.
Oh,
didn't you say it can, like, if you got shot there, it would stop?
Yeah. So I read somewhere, I was a little worried, because my first thing is I want to go back to MMA. It's my passion, But I was worried about like trauma to it, and so one of the reps from the company, I talked to them, the device maker, told me that no, they said there was a hunting accident recently. And the person got shot, and by accident, and the bullet ricocheted off the device. Yeah.
Like
I've hit it a
that's
couple
like
times, dude. Like on accident, like I feel it, like I touch them or something, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about
hunting
that.
accidents, or I mean, when you're talking hunting, those are some large caliber bullets too. That's not like a 22.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I didn't think about that. You're right.
Yeah.
That's a high caliber rifle or something. And so, yeah, the only thing is that the doctor didn't want to clear me to do, he was okay with the striking, the irony, but not jitsu, because he was worried about an arm bar. Because he asked me, he's like, is there any exercises that pull on your arm? I'm like, yeah, arm bars and Kimuras. He's like, what are those? So I pulled up a YouTube video.
Showing the doctor, and he's like,
Yeah. No, he's like, because he was worried about it might dislodge it.
Yeah.
So he was like, I want to wait 1 year, let the scar tissue run it form, you know? And so that's what we did.
You got pretty good arm bar and Kimura defense now, I bet.
Yeah, but just came back.
You're like,
just came back to
"No."
do jiu-jitsu 2 weeks ago for the first time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I took a year off, but I ended up taking longer off. You know, I was telling Mike that it's like a football wide receiver who runs like a crossing pattern and gets nailed and then goes through some horrific injury that takes him out for like 6 months a year. When he comes back, he's a little hesitant.
A little gun shy.
Yeah, to run that route again. So for sure, I went through something like that, you know?
Yeah, trauma. So one of the big things that I wanted to ask you and hear about, and you keep telling me one day you're going to tell me about it, and today I think is the day. I want to know about what you saw. What you saw when you were out. You've told me a little bit about it, but I want to go into it deeper.
Yeah. Well, I guess today is an okay day. The truth of it is I couldn't talk about it before. I was very emotional, very emotional. No human being is made to go through what I went through, and your body's not made for it. It's a combination of oxygen deprivation. It's a combination of being in different states of consciousness, and it was pretty crazy. I spent a lot of days crying afterwards. Okay. As the time goes by, my memory fades a little bit, but I can tell you guys some of the key things. Now, there's certain things that I don't remember that my family remembers very well, because I was in and out of consciousness, and they tell me how I would wake up and tell them that I saw family members and things like that, that I saw relatives I never met before, that I told them about the kids. That I saw my kids' kids. In other words, my kids don't have any kids. About people in the future, And so I can't speak very well about that because I don't remember that. But I can tell you what I do remember. And what I remember is this, is the day you die, you know you die. And the reason is because when your heart stops, your brain still functions. So you talk about the best mind fuck in the world, it's your brain telling you you're dead, And you're able to reason it out because some people are going to say, oh, well, Joe, maybe you had some, because of the oxygen deprivation, your mind created hallucinations, this and that. But no, I can factually reason out what happened to me. And the reason is because when I was in the hospital, I remember there was a lady, she was like an ER nurse or a doctor. I think she was a doctor. For some reason, my vision was out that day. So I just couldn't see anything.
I remember you having a hard time seeing.
Yeah, I just couldn't see. But your body makes up for it. I had a very elevated sense of sound and other things to figure out where I was. And because of my past surgery and all that, I knew where I was. I knew I was in an ER room. I could hear the people yelling, and I could hear the machine that beep, beep, a thing that goes up and down. And I remember a lady yelling, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I guess I could hear her, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. You're in a state of paralysis. And then I remember she was yelling, "His pulse is weakening. His pulse is weakening. I'm losing him. I'm losing him." And then I remember feeling or hearing or feeling a pop, an actual pop. And then I heard nothing. And I knew that I was dead. And I knew that I was dead because I couldn't hear anything. You know what I mean? I couldn't hear the people. I couldn't hear the machines. I couldn't hear anything. And indeed, my heart had stopped again, And then I remember, it's one of the nice things is, and people who are listening should remember this, you die very peacefully. I don't remember feeling any pain. I don't remember feeling like, anything. And I thought to myself, okay, my beautiful wife, she's going to like marry someone else. And I said that in a very generous way. In other words, there wasn't a lot of pain. It was like an acceptance on my part, And then I remember thinking about my oldest daughter, and I was thinking, she's fine. She's at an age in life where she'll like recuperate. She'll make do. And then I had my youngest one, who I think was like 11, and then I thought about her, and then I remember thinking, no, she's not ready for me like to go. I thought that like some other man might not raise her the way I want her to be raised. And I just remember thinking to myself, no, no, no. And then all of a sudden I heard that pop again, pop. And then all of a sudden I heard the lady yelling at me again, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I could hear the machines in the background. So I could imagine, when you come in on my kind of call, you come in, they call in advance, and they'll say like code red, code blue, whatever, and you've got like a crew waiting for you. You've got like doctors and nurses waiting to immediately like bring you in. And there's no doubt there was a lot of people in there. And then I remember her saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And I knew that I had been gone. And all I was thinking is, oh, fuck, I don't want them to forget me. I don't want them to put me in some drawer, like some movie where like I still had a chance. And I remember that I tried with all my power to lift my arm and do a thumbs up. And all I could do was just barely lift my arm just a little bit. And I remember that she said something, they said something, she didn't yell anymore. So I'm guessing not only they saw my arm move, but they also probably saw the heart monitor or something, probably saw some sort of
activity.
Pulse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, this is probably one of the first times in a long time that I've actually like shared that story without like shedding any tears, because it really messed with me, because like I said, human beings, we're not made to go through that. At least I don't think so. We're not made to know that we died. You know what I mean? And because of the music, not the music, the yelling, the sounds of those machines, that's how I know that I was gone, And I also know that I traveled, because I felt myself like above. And I felt myself like looking down, and not at my room or anything, but I felt myself like traveling somewhere when these thoughts were happening. And I felt like people were waiting for me. And there's no doubt that I was at a superior view looking down, I've been to law school. I think like a scientist. I'm a logical, rational person. I didn't go read books to see what this meant. I'm just going by like the facts and the logic. And the facts and the logic tell me that when those sounds left and my heart stopped, that means I was dead, and that's why they left, Now, why am I back? Could be the greatest sense of luck in the world, or it could be because I have a purpose. You know what I mean? I know that I'm not taking it for granted. You know what I mean? I know I'm not taking anything for granted. And, yeah, that thought I just shared with you guys, that one haunted me for days. I cried a lot. And, I owe that woman so much, because I feel like that woman, and I shouldn't call her a woman, she's probably a doctor, a lady, mother, whatever. But she willed me back to a certain degree, because she was yelling at the top of her lungs, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Like, she gave a shit, And she probably saw me, younger looking guy, blah, 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 just came in from a sports gym, And so she was probably like, nah, this guy, like, I don't know. I gained a new respect for the medical profession and what these people do, because she probably goes through all kinds of stuff every day. And I know that it meant something for her with me. And hopefully, like, she got a great blessing from that as well.
It's really nice to, I think one of the things that scares me the most about people in the medical profession, doctors, EMTs and stuff, is getting jaded by, losing people, and it's good to see that everybody who you had taking care of you was not jaded by your situation. They weren't like, this is just another guy who's died. They did everything they could. They still felt there was a chance to bring you back.
Well, many medical professionals, even including the ones that worked on me, that saved me, they told me that they're used to like death. They understand death, and they don't like disappoint themselves. They understand it's part of their job, and they have to go through that, They don't like go home depressed every day they couldn't save anyone. So I think it's like when you finally see a chance that somebody's savable, you dive in 500 miles to see if this is the one.
Have that opportunity. Yeah. Like you said, like the opportunity to save a life, it's like the big thing for them. You kind
By the
of
way, now you know I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is start freaking tearing up in an MMA gym. But
Yeah.
time heals all wounds. That's why today we can talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And,
we're both very honored and happy that you're willing to share it with us. You know, as one of the first times that you're doing that. You know, I'm still, as much shit as I talk to you, I'm really, you know, inspired by you, Joe, and I'm really proud to see you where you are. But I want to talk about where
hey,
you
but
are.
wait a second though. I want to hear that again because you've been busting my balls. And
I said it once. And it's gonna be on. It's gonna. You can
let me
rewind
tell you.
it.
You can rewind it.
You can rewind
You
it.
can
Play it
watch
as
it
much as you.
yeah. Mike will turn you into a whiny little bitch because let me tell you, there's this other gentleman there named Mike. He's a cop. And then some days Mike's like, why don't you work hard like him? Why don't you work hard like him? He goes, I got a lot of respect for that guy. Well, yeah, why? He's like, that guy don't quit. That guy don't quit, man. That guy, what'd you tell me he had? Like, what those, was it
Kidney stone?
Kidney stone. Yeah, that guy's over here putting out 16 stones and he just don't quit. And I'm thinking, I fucking died and came back. You know? How fucking dare you compare us? What about me? You know?
Hey, but it worked. I know how to, I know how to push
Yeah.
those buttons. That's the thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
because
thing.
I remember thinking, F him.
Yeah.
And I did.
And then,
like,
and
the
then
next
he
week-
started fucking running every day.
Yeah,
That's when
I
it started-
did. I did. I started pushing it even harder
God.
and cursing him.
Yep.
It brings a whole new meaning to that saying, "Did you die though?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean,
Everything
and-
brings a whole new meaning. You know how many people use the expression, oh man, I was so scared, I almost had a heart attack, and this and that. All that brings like new meaning to me.
Yeah. And it's like I said, like I'm super proud of where you are, but like I want to talk about where you are. Like you are where you are now is much different from where you were before the incident. And
Right.
in my eyes, it's a much better place.
Yeah.
I mean, tell us how, if you want, I mean, if you're okay with it, like how it's changed you, how your view on life is different.
Oh man, how can it not change you? I mean, you got to be a rock for somebody else to change you. Look, it changes you in every way. First, you understand what's important. You understand who's there for you, and who cried the most for you, who was worried the most, and it's your family. So I've always been a good family man, a good husband and a father, but that helps you to like rededicate yourself to them, you know. And even to the other people that like showed you support, you know. And you also learn that like life is precious and you don't take it for granted. So this happened about a year and a half ago. Well, see, November will be 2 years, so a little more than a year and a half. And well, what's happened since then? You know, I sat around, I planned it, I finally opened up. I used to have an office years ago and I shut down, working out of my house. I just opened up an office. I've always wanted to do real estate coaching. I finally started a real estate coaching program. Flipping Unleashed, by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
And,
It's look it up. It's on YouTube. The videos are
yeah.
pretty awesome. I love watching them.
And so I did that. I did the best of the best. I mean, I took my family out to the best trips. I mean, I spent like a Herculean amount flying us all around first class all over Europe from here and all that. I'm not trying to brag about the money, but I'm just trying to say that like how things are different now. And my wife's like, honey, we'll freaking go coach or this or that. And then she saw the bill and she's like, okay, meet me halfway. We'll do premium economy. I'm like, no. Because I just realized how life is just so precious and valuable, you know? And to me, you know, many people don't agree with me, but to me, money's just dirty paper. I can go out and make more. If you're smart at what you do, you can go out and make more, you know? But the experiences that you enjoy with your family, they're not always going to be available to have more of those, you know? So in that sense, like I thirst for life, I live life, I bask in it, I enjoy the moment. I have the stupidest humor sometimes in front of the stupidest people, but guess what, they can kiss if they don't like it, because I'm happy to be alive and I'm going to like keep being happy to be alive.
I'll tell you what, I definitely see there's a lot fewer days that you come in and you're stressed out and you're unhappy. You come in smiling, waving, hey, what's up, telling stupid jokes on your way in. Like, it's a much different aura and vibe to you nowadays.
You want to hear something crazy? It could just be coincidental. So I'm a real estate investor, you know, and it's a very profitable business, but it's not an easy business. Everybody and their mom wants to find a house for cheap. I didn't like, I'm not doing some unique thing. You know, that probably goes back to since the day that a human being can own property, my career has existed, probably thousands of years, you know? So I have my open heart surgery, and I go through this phase where everything I freaking touch is gold, and it's a deal, and I got a bunch of great deals. Sometimes in my business, every deal you get turned down on, somebody beats you to it, or you get 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 10, whatever, right? Well, I have like my heart surgery, and it was like every freaking deal I touched for like the first year, I got them all, or like most of them. I mean, I just bought a shit load of properties. And then guess what happened after this last incident?
Everything was going down.
I bought some badass properties, that San Clemente
yeah.
one next
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the water. I mean, I bought some signature stuff at absolute signature prices, that it was just like, wow, like, am I just being like, is favor being given to me? Because I just got like these great deals, or I don't know, just on the side, and I figure I throw it out there.
Yeah.
I find it kind of interesting, you know?
Well, you know, what I thought you were going to say actually different is like, you know, that happened, right? You were, you know, like you got it, like you got your favor, right? From the universe or whatever gave it to you, right? But recently you were telling me you went through a string of really bad luck, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
You're right.
the thing that's different about it is like you were like the level of stress that I saw in you this last couple of weeks or however long it's been, as opposed to like, I didn't even know about it, as opposed to how it would have been before. It's like night and day different. Like you're not letting these things bother you as much, and you're not stressing about them as much. It's a big deal, right? You're going to be worrying about it, but it's just not quite the way it used to be.
No, you're right. You're right. No, I don't let it happen. I mean, there's something to be said also that some of these other deals that I did too right after my cardiac arrest were so juicy. I mean, they could like feed me and my family for years, you know? But yeah, I put everything in perspective. I put it in perspective. You know, this world tries to make you think that it's about, especially Southern California, it's about working hard and traffic and bills and mortgages and, you know, making ends meet and all that. And obviously, I have a very different perspective, you know?
Yeah.
After what I've been through. Because in the end, you can't take any of it with you. You can't take any of it with you. And I think it was Bob Marley on his deathbed. I don't know if you guys know. I know a little bit about his story. He had cancer, I believe it was in his foot, which was very treatable. But he declined to have his foot amputated. Some people say it's because he was an entertainer, and he'd be a poor entertainer on TV, on stage, if he didn't have like that foot. Others say it's because he's a Rastafarian, and in Rastafarianism, I guess the man is supposed to like pass whole, or be whole to pass to the other world. I don't know exactly, but the point is that Ziggy goes to see him on his deathbed, literally, and he tells him, he says, Bob's last words to him were, says, "Take care of yourself." He says, "Because money can't buy you health." I mean, in those days, that guy was arguably, I mean, I think second to Queen Elizabeth, one of the most well-known people in the world, you know, and had all the money in the world, access to the best doctors, and look, you know.
Yeah. He was he had a lot of insightful things to say about Marley. Really liked him.
In Stoicism, there's a saying called memento mori. It's remember you will die.
The memory will die?
No, remember you will die.
Oh, remember you will die.
Yeah, and it's sometimes people see it as something grim. You got one of those for me too? And it's not to be like fearful of death, but to realize no matter what, it'll happen, right? Mike lost his mic. The irony. Anyways, so with Stoicism, you know, you're just like, why are you, you know, holding on to all these treasures, or, you know, not going and living your life, or making a decision that you could easily just go do, but because you want to, you know, hoard up everything, you're losing out on actually living life. And it sounds like, without even knowing that philosophy, that's something that naturally came to you. Or like, yeah, like, I'm just gonna live life. I'm just gonna go out there and travel, and, you know, make memories with my family. And like you said, you know, money will always, you know, turn up. You can always make more money. So,
you know what's awesome? What you just said made me realize something that I thought after what happened to me, my life was being dictated about what I wanted and how I was going to pursue, like, you know, how I was going to live. But you made me realize it's not really about that. It's about what I'm letting go. And because I'm letting go, I'm forbearing from things, letting those things go. That gives me the ability to go after the other things that I've always wanted to do, you know? And I feel like that's maybe more what it is for me is that I'm not letting myself, thank you, getting caught up in the rut of other things. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
No, and I think that's one of the biggest things about realizing.
We're doing cheers here.
Cheers that.
I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things about being content and happy in your life is letting things go. That's one of the biggest things I think I mentioned on the podcast a couple times is I'm all like right now I'm about cutting shit. I don't want to add anything new in my life. I want to get rid of excess first before I add anything new because that's the kind of shit that stresses you out and fucking just keeps you up at night, gets you anxious. You have more things to worry about. Just stacking shit on top.
You know, I'm half Cuban, half Colombian. I come from a hot-blooded Hispanic family. I remember, like, for my wedding, my wife and I were working out the seating chart, and we'd have to, like, seat people strategically based on, like, who knew each other, who, like, you know, would get along the best, and also, too, who could get along, because there'd be, like, beefs, you know. And you couldn't put Aunt Maria next to, you know, Aunt Sonia because Aunt Maria believes that, you know, her husband grabbed Aunt Sonia's ass back in 1984, and she's still holding a beef over it. So, you know what I mean? These people could do really well from profiting from that let go
Letting
ideology.
go shit, yeah.
You know, and on top of that, from what I understand, her ass wasn't even that great either.
You know, a lot of things that I'm like, if I'm struggling to find something or to get something, or even if I'm like in a conversation, I'm like, fuck, I had something to say and I forgot it. And I struggle to find it and I never get it. The moment I go, whatever, leave it, comes back. That's like when I find everything. As soon as I let it go, it comes back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that lizard part of the brain. It's the fight or flight. You're so amped up and angry about it that you're just like, you're thinking irrationally, you know. That's why they tell you to take 3 deep breaths. It's like it takes it from the parasympathetic nervous system to the frontal cortex. You're literally, I know, big words.
Keep going.
Sympathetic, yeah.
It's the lizard part of your brain is the earliest part of your brain, which is the pretty much all like the instincts and prime.
And the whole fight or flight.
Right. And then the front part of your brain is where all the thought and reasoning.
Abstract thinking is.
Yeah. So you can't think up here when you're all angry and, you know, because you're trying to fight for your survival. It's what that.
Well, you know, this society makes you sick sometimes because,
absolutely.
You know, I had the heart attack. It's not like how you see on TV, you know, where the guy's like, you know, holding on to his chest and he's falling down. That's not what happened with me.
Life alert.
You know? Yeah. No, I mean, I was like I had a lot of nausea and I was in a lot of pain, but I was walking and I had one of my assistants with me and he's like, boss, he's like, you don't look good. He's like, let me take you to the doctor's office. I'm like, I don't know, I'll feel good. Let me wash my face. So I went to the bathroom and washed my face and I looked in the mirror. I literally was green. And I knew, you know, you go from like white to like green almost, you know. I was like, no, I should go. And yeah.
Yeah, when your skin color turns into.
Yeah.
Well, because you're stubborn in life, right? Yeah. And I had finals coming up in law school. So you know when he's like, boss, let's go now. I said, hold on. I was like, freaking hold on. And you know what I went to go do? I went to go find my law school flashcards. Because I was like, I ain't got time for this. I ain't got time to be sick. And I was thinking, at least while I'm waiting in the ER, I can study my law school flashcards. And that's what I mean about sometimes life just indoctrinates you into like different things. Because I felt like law school was important. I had to get it done and, you know, so.
Just makes you realize what actually is important, you know, like.
Yeah.
Stretching, I mean, it happens a lot of times when you're just stretching yourself too thin. You're trying to do way too much shit. And then life just goes like, nah, stop. You got to cut that shit down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I mean, I profited, though. I learned a lot from law school, which has helped me out a lot in my industry, you know. But I don't have that strain. People are like, so why don't you go back? You only got, like, you know, what is it, another 6 months, a year, you're done, and blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Why, you know?
Hey, one thing, I'm not sure if you're willing to talk about it or not.
That incident in Mexico with that midget or what?
No.
Yeah, I'm not ready to talk about
what
that.
happens in Mexico stays in Mexico. How are you comfortable talking about your activity as far as religion goes?
Yeah, no, I don't mind.
I know that.
Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand with what I've experienced.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
And
don't
I think
mind at all.
what I think how you turned out after the incident is different than what happens to a lot of people after an incident like that. Because I know that you were heavily involved in your church beforehand, and not so much anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with I don't believe in like a higher power. I don't know. Okay, I think it's several issues. One, it's like earlier, I asked for one of my assistants not to be here. Why? Because I haven't shared this with everybody. When you go through what I've gone through, you don't want to feel inferior, and you don't want to feel defective, and you don't want people to treat you like that, And let me tell you, if you ever want to unleash the dog in me, treat me like that. That's why when I spar some days, I was gone for a year and a half, and I feel like some of these young guys, the new ones that started while I was gone, didn't know me, haven't given me my respect, and they don't know this fucking iceberg of a chip I carry on my shoulder.
Especially they just see you as that guy that's doing private lessons with Mike in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. Who's this old fucker? Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you.
What rank are you? Are you
in
blue,
I'm blue in both, in striking and
okay, cool.
and the
I'm a
jits.
blue belt as well.
Okay, and I love getting in there and just throwing the heaviest of leather, and I love when I see that look on their face when their mouth is going.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's like poetry to me, and it has to do with oh hell no, you're not gonna look down on me and treat me because I've been through so much, and I refuse to be treated like that. And that's how I think I live my life, because you don't want to feel defective, and you don't want people to sympathize or not sympathize, feel sorry for you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess sympathy and feeling sorry, at least to me, are two different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sympathy to me is relating to you.
Empathy is
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, you're right. The empathy.
Sympathy would be more feeling sorry.
Yeah,
people
you're right. The empathy relating, you're right, absolutely. And so,
people at your church making you feel that way?
well, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And because that game of telephone, I mean, people thought I had multiple heart attacks. I didn't have a heart attack. Cardiac arrest is different, And in that sense, I'm lucky. Now, cardiac arrest can kill you, but since I survived, there was no damage to my heart or anything like that, and by the way, on a side note, excuse me, everybody there wondering about MMA exercise, one thing that we didn't say real quick is that I went in there with organ failure. They were freaking amazed within hours how my liver, kidneys, everything starting back up, and they're like, what the fuck? How's this guy doing this? He shouldn't even be alive. And then everything was just turning on one after another. I credit that 100% to my diet and MMA. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Keeping me in that good of condition. Even at my worst, with all the trauma that my heart had gone through that day, my ejection fraction was 55, which is still good. Before that, it was 70.
What is that? What is it?
Okay, ejection fraction is a measure of how powerful the heart muscle is, right?
Okay.
Ideally, they want people to be within 55 to 70, right? Now, you might get a professional athlete, especially like a long distance runner, those guys might be in the low 70s, mid 70s, way beyond that number. But 55 to 70 are great numbers. So my last checkup before I had the cardiac arrest, I was 70. I was at that peak. And at my worst of the worst of the worst, when my heart had gone through crazy trauma, I was 55.
Wow.
Still in an acceptable range. And now that my heart's strong again, I'm eating, I can only imagine how high it is now, So just on a side note, eating, and I was very lucky that Bryant was there, the gentleman, the EMT, but I was also fortunate that I had been eating right and I had been exercising
Training
a lot.
hard, yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as religion, I think it was just that I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want people asking me a shitload of questions. It was very personal to me.
Over talking about it, huh? Tired.
Now I can, but in those days, man, I was like a little faucet some days. You know, I'm like an old-fashioned Hispanic guy that grew up with a father that put certain expectations on how a man should be and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you find yourself tearing up some days, you know. I wasn't used to that,
Yeah.
you know. It was different. So I think that's why I stopped going. And
Right.
one day turns into 1 week turns into 3 weeks, 3 weeks turns into 2 months, you know.
So on and so forth.
And yeah, so I haven't been back since, not because I'm a disbeliever, because I don't know. I think to a certain degree, either you believe in the most freaking ridiculous odds in the world, or something very special happened to me. Do you know what I mean? And I can't discount the second option, you know? So yeah, I think I definitely believe, and I also think that there's a purpose for me to be here. I think that I was given a second chance.
Do you feel like you had any any encounters or anything that happened to you while you were, you know, out that made you kind of affirmed your belief in something a little bit higher?
Yeah, well, the story that I told you guys, like I said, my family shared a lot of what I said, and but I can't confirm that because I don't remember it. They remember it.
I remember you saying, I think you told me when I was at the hospital with you, I think you were telling me how you were like in a field, like a pasture, and you just saw like all of your family, like your relatives, like past and future, and people you had never met before
Yeah,
or
I
seen.
saw people waiting for me. That was when I told you that I was traveling. I could see there was a group of people. There was like I don't know if it was a lake or a river or what it was, but it was made out of gold. And on the other side were like people, everything was golden. I don't know why. And there was people there waiting, and the person in front was an old person. And it's not a joke, but he looked like frickin' the guy from KFC.
Colonel.
Yeah. No. Well, it's funny because my dad's hair stood up on the back of his neck when I used to describe him to me. He says, that's my grandfather. Well, that's how he used to dress in those days and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. All I can say is that, look, imagine you're in some like transitionary state from life to death, and you're reflecting on your life. And you say to yourself, I'm not ready to go yet. And you say no, and then all of a sudden you come back to life. I don't think it works that way. I think there's a lot of people that are in that state that don't want to die, who say no, and they don't get to come back. And I feel like I got to come back. You know, I feel like I had a chance to come back, you know. So, I mean, how can I not believe in something like that? I mean, do I really have that much power, you know, or did something or someone decide that it's just not this guy's time, you know? And the fact that by the way, it wasn't a few firefighters. It was about 9 or 10 that came to see me the next day. And then the day of the award, it was probably about 40 or 50 who came to see me, the local paper. It was just such a rarity that I made it and the way I survived.
Yeah.
That, you know.
And coming back in training too. I mean, I heard stories of people just going in the water and drowning for just a few minutes, and the damage it's done to their brain because you know, the lack of oxygen.
Right.
I mean, going through that similar experience and being many minutes and having no brain damage and
Well, I did have some brain damage, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's one, I believe it's the frontal lobe that involves memory. They did see some damage there, some brain cells lost. So I did a lot of reading on neurogenesis, the way to like grow new brain cells. And I just challenged my mind, and one of the things I've learned is that your brain has other areas that can make up for it if you know how to channel it.
Yeah.
So I started reading like advanced books on memory and things like that. And I pushed my brain to the point that I'm not like I was in law school. Law school, I had hundreds of laws memorized. But, excuse me, I feel really good where I'm at now, my memory. And the doctor tells me, I don't even see a neurologist anymore. He's like, you look really good. He's like, you might have issues 20, 30 years from now, but he's like, right now you're good.
Oh, that's good.
You know?
What were those books, if anybody else is interested in?
You know, I thought it was it called Walking with Einstein 1?
I've heard about that book
Yeah,
before.
it was Walking with Einstein. God, there's a negotiation book. What's it called? Never Split the Difference by a guy who used to run the FBI. I forgot his name.
Yep, great book.
And I just wanted books that challenged me and challenged my mind a little bit. And God, I can't think of his name. The book's called Persuasion, by the way. He's a doctor, I'm pretty sure, PhD instructor out of Arizona State. Persuasion, Robert Cialdini. Okay. So, yeah, those books.
They really helped.
Yeah.
You know, he's the person who told me about 4 Hour Work Week.
Oh, really?
Ferriss. Yeah, he's the person who.
I love 4 Hour Work Week.
Yeah, it's a great, exactly. So, and I don't know if I read that. Did I read that after my accident?
No, it was before.
Before? Okay.
I think you did the same thing as me. You listened to an audio and stopped because the guy was annoying. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
the guy in the audio book was fucking annoying as shit.
Yeah, read the book. It's good to. There's certain books, and we've talked about this before. There's certain books that they're great to just listen to, and if they have a good narrator, it's good to just to absorb. And then there's some books that you're gonna make so many notes. Just buy the damn book.
Right.
It may be faster to listen to it, but it's just. The amount of notes and reference and going back and creating your own plans based off of it. There's just certain books, and 4 Hour Work Week is one of those. So if you listen to it, you better have a pad and paper right next to you the whole time. Yeah.
Well, something I like to share so everybody can hear is that you are way more in control of your life than you can imagine, and the reason why I say it is because you okay there, Mike? For those of you who can't see, he's falling. He is not the mic master.
We're at a different table today, so
yeah. You might just want to hold the thing. Either that or cut him off, everybody. Cut him off.
I got it. It's fine. We're good.
Yeah,
I got it.
Just hold it.
Chicken, 1, 2, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike's not allowed to use a stand anymore.
So, like for example, when I was in the hospital, I remember I kept thinking to myself, everybody was so bleak, everybody was so crying. When different doctors are coming up and they're like, this is the guy, this is him. I knew some serious shit had gone down. I didn't know what because I didn't have all my faculties. But I was literally like, fuck that. Mm-hmm. So I felt like every day and every moment, especially when they left, my family, I just fucking said to myself, fix yourself. You fix yourself. You fix yourself. You go to sleep right now and you concentrate on healing. And, could be luck, whatever, but I definitely healed ridiculously fast. The brain trauma that I have, everybody's talking to me, they can hear me, with the exceptions of the crackers in the closet. I think I sound pretty normal right now, and I can, I'm involved in many intellectual pursuits. I've debated with people to test my cognitive skills, and they're good. So the point I want everybody to know is that science is great and medicine is great, and there's no doubt there's a big reason why I'm here. But do not discount your power and your willpower and your desire to overcome. And we do that in physical exercise, but when it comes to healing, you can do the same thing, and I strongly, strongly believe that. Because shortly after this happened to me, about 3-4 weeks later, I got Bell's palsy. Half my face was paralyzed, right?
That's what I wanted to talk about. I saw he was texting me, and I was like, "How you doing?" He was like, "Good." And then I saw a picture of him on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh yeah, shit!" I was like, "Fuck, he's kind of fucked up." Like,
yeah,
really scared.
Yeah, because your face is like paralyzed. Your mouth is like open. You can't blink. You can't move your nose on one side, and so I was like, "Oh hell no." I've gone through too much shit now to be fucking paralyzed. I was like, no, it ain't gonna happen. Even though people usually recuperate, some could be like 10, 12 years, some could be 2 years. So I started reading up on it, and I learned there's exercises you can do, and I learned that that's either viral, it happens to you, the cause, they're not for sure, or it's a result of shock to your body. Well, I just went through cardiac arrest, so.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, there's no greater shock your body can go through, right?
And dying.
Yeah, exactly. That or
die and then be not dead.
Yeah.
Body's like, what? Or like, which one?
Yeah, exactly. So I read his exercises, and I practiced every day, grabbing my lip and fish hooking it, pushing it out, moving my nose, opening up my eye, and concentrating little by little. and my wife brought me some guy that she knew from the church who had been going through it for like a year and a half. I didn't want to see the guy. And she's like, "It's fucking rude." I'm like, "It's not fucking rude." I said, "What the fuck can I learn from him?" I said, "No offense, all he knows is how to fail." She goes, "How do you figure?" I said, "A year and a half, and he hasn't beat the thing." And that,
Fucking awesome, Joe.
and that was my attitude. She goes, "That's kind of rude." I said, "What is he going to fucking tell me?" I said, "He's going to ruin my fucking good day." I said, "I don't want to talk to him. No offense. You shouldn't have invited him." I said, I love you, honey. I know what you did. But no, I said, that's not what I want. I want to hear the fucking winner. I want to hear about the exception. So, I worked and worked and worked. And about a week and a half later, I go to my wife, I go, look. I could move my nose a little bit and my lip just a bit. But it means it wasn't paralysis anymore.
Nice.
So fast forward 3 weeks later, it's done. In 3 weeks, I'm back to fully functioning. My eye works perfect. My nose works perfect. My lip, everything is back to normal. I'm not like talking weird. I'm not, and by the way, the worst thing is we're drinking a beer, it come out the side of your mouth. You don't really
have another pint glass right next to you.
Yeah. My chest was beer flavored. So yeah, that was the worst part. And you know what I fucking regret the most out of that was so I couldn't blink, right? And you know how like in TJ, Tijuana, Mexico, there's like UCSD, Casa San Diego. There's a bunch of colleges there, and I think there's even a military base. So you get all these drunk ass young people that go over there, and I was thinking, fuck, I should have gone to these bars and challenged these drunk fuckers to a blinking contest. You know what I mean? You know how much easy money I would have made? I'd be like, "I'll bet you I don't blink for 5 minutes." Yeah. Well, I had time with it. So
Well, at least you were thinking.
Tim Ferriss has a saying, "No posers." If you're going to learn from somebody, only learn from people who have actually done the thing that they say they're going to do. Don't pick up a book from some life coach who hasn't succeeded in anything.
Right, I agree.
It's not going to do you any good. If you're going to try to learn, in your case, how to flip properties,
right?
Why wouldn't you want to go and learn from the guy who's done it and done well at doing it versus somebody who hasn't?
I'm doing real estate coaching now, and that's what I find. Some of the advice of my competition, I'm like, this dude don't work in the business.
Yeah,
like one guy
for years.
It's crazy how you can become a coach without having done the thing that you're coaching.
It's all marketing.
Yep.
Nowadays, you rent a freaking jet for like 1 hour to go in there and take pictures. It's just on the runway the whole time, or you rent like a Rolls Royce and
a picture coming down from the steps, and
you go Tom Vu with it. Rent about 3 cheerleaders.
Oh, that dude. Him and what's the other one online who takes you through his house? Oh shit.
Did it?
No. So yeah, very funny. No, there's another one of those. There's a term that they're giving them now, entrepreneurs. They're
Wow, I never heard that before.
Yeah,
that's a good term.
There's actually a YouTube channel that this guy walks through the whole methodology of how they do it. It's actually a lot of cult methodology, how cults kind of get followers and influence people. Tier schemes are very similar as well. But they're all they're cult mentality.
What page is called? Do you remember what it's called?
I think it's Entrepreneur.
That's
I think
cool.
he took
look into that.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
But it's a whole thing growing in the industry of these people who are just, they're not experts. They maybe had a little success or they got enough to get to where they're at.
Right.
But that's what they're, it's not like
They just know how to get people to
Vee-
listen to him. They just know how to get people to listen to him.
Exactly. Gary Vee's not a entrepreneur, but he has a very, very successful marketing agency. He's like, hey, I'll teach you how to do this or how to be successful. Things like that. That you succeeded, you can teach.
Right.
But if you haven't,
What's funny, one of my competitors, I was laughing the other day. I'm like, are you freaking serious? So one of his advice, like I said, I find distressed property, I fix it up, I resell it, right? And so this guy, I won't say his name. I freaking want to though, but
call him out.
Yeah. I'm not ready though. I'm not ready. Let me get
Fight.
Yeah, fight. And he see, not now. I forgot what we were gonna say. Oh, so one of his big like moments when the camera's on him. He's like, there's deals everywhere. And he goes to one of the assistants. He's like, whatever the assistant's name, we'll call him Bob. Hey, Bob, what do you think we should do? What do you think the advisor is? Bob's like, first thing we're going to tell our people to do is you can do anything. Get in the car, drive around, look for vacant homes. And I'm like, drive around and look for vacant homes. Get in your freaking car and drive around aimlessly, just wandering. Should I make a left on this street? Should I make a right on that one? You know what I mean? And I'm thinking with all like the data sources that we have nowadays.
You literally, I mean, the MLS, I mean, you've got.
Yeah, how about if I talk to a cop or the postman? Hey, you see any vacant homes? How about the postman? Hey, you see any on your route? If you refer me one,
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten plenty of deals from cops and postmen and things like that, and even firefighters.
You've got a lot of really good techniques for that. I've seen it at work. I've seen you asking people like, Mike, the guy we were talking about earlier, ask him like, hey, if you see any vacant homes, let me know. I'll give you some money off of the deal, yada, yada. And it's,
he referred me one.
It's like, that's genius.
Only problem was it had a U.S. Marshal lien on it for like $1 million or something.
Yeah, it's so surprising nowadays how much like these new scams of like one thing in my industry, marketing, is like they're like, oh, you'll get all your leads online. No. You don't get your lead. You can't just create a social media page, send out a bunch of ads, and expect that you're going to get all this quality business. You might get some business, but it's not quality. It's not going to, will it bring in $500? Maybe, but how much are you going to waste getting to that point? Or just send 1 million messages on LinkedIn. It's like, it's so stupid. I mean, it's some of the old, true and tried methods of just calling or meeting the person at networking events. That works. Why are everybody trying to create all these new methodologies, driving around to look for a vacant home?
Right.
They're trying to make it sound simple so they could say it. Like, hey, anybody could do it. You could do it.
Yeah. It's nonsense.
Well, fuck, dude. We could talk about this all day, but you want to get to the closing questions?
Yeah, let's do the closing questions.
So, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Let's skip out the failure one. Let's start. I'll start. I start. Okay. So, Joe, if you could jump in a time machine, forward and backwards in time, you can come back. Like, you don't have to stay there. Where would you go? What would you do? What would you see?
Wow, that's a really good question. If I could go back in time.
Forward too. You can go forward.
Oh, forward. Oh, wow. That gets even better. Mm-hmm. That gets even better. And I only get one choice?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have like a couple, but I mean, it's a hypothetical. So
Okay,
you can say
I'll show you mine if you show me yours. I want to know what you're at.
Oh, I mean, it's not. It's like it's.
Only because I'm curious.
Yeah, mine is to go back and see the Doors play with Jim Morrison.
Oh wow. Okay. I'll give you scenarios because that's just so hard to narrow it down to one thing. Like the real estate investor in me wants to go do a backward jump to when all the property in Beverly Hills was like dirt cheap, and buy it all up. And today I'd be
Why
like,
are we selling this house to this guy? He hasn't even been.
Well, in those
yet.
days, it's probably just raw land. If you go back far enough that I want to.
Yeah.
As far as the future, I have
If
to
you would
tell
have
you.
bought it, would have turned into fucking Pomona.
Yeah. No. Don't say that. Don't say it. Take that back. Take it back. No. But as far as the future, I think that mankind is creating such wonderful things. We really are. Although the media doesn't always tell you everything's about how bad everything is politically right now. But I think there's some great people out there working on some great things. And wow, if I could go forward to see what life's like in 500 years and what planets we're living on, and
Good one. That's the first time we've had that one. Surprisingly.
That's literally mine.
Huh?
That's literally mine.
is it?
Oh, I guess it was your second one. I was thinking back to your stupid
Yeah,
one.
my stupid hack one.
Yeah.
I have a hack one that's I say I'll travel far enough into the future to get a time machine, and then I'll just go wherever I want.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
That was a hack, but he didn't let that slide. He's like, that's a bullshit answer. You have to do it over again. I was like, okay, then go about into the future, see where humanity went.
I think
like,
it was Stallone and Wesley Snipes. There's a movie called Demolition Man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember where they go so
Yes.
far in the future. There's no toilet paper. They have like these little shells.
Yep.
And that's how you.
For? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I finally figured out what the.
So you don't gotta like touch anything, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Imagine how that is.
That movie has some of the best lines. Oh,
Yeah.
There was a video game back with like Super Nintendo for that shit, man. Oh,
Yeah.
good
So
times.
as far as the future, but you know what though? Yeah, some incredible things have happened in the past too. So, yeah, but I think I like Josiah's answer the best. I would want to go. It's like the genie gives you one wish, and you're like, I wish for more wishes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fuck
and
bullshit.
I would go forward. You know, there's been some,
apparently, I think like him.
Yeah.
there's been some great men historically that have just changed mankind, and to sit with those guys. And break bread and drink some stale wine because the wine wasn't that good in those days, and
Yeah. Okay. What?
Daily habit.
Yeah, that's what I'm really interested in.
Okay. What is one daily habit that you have, if you could share it with anybody, that'll just improve the quality of their life?
daily habit.
We've gotten taking your calendar and your monthly calendar and rather have it flip, post it on the wall so you can literally track out your whole year. We've gotten probiotics.
Planning your next day out.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Planning your
the night
next day
before,
out
take
the
a
day
plan the next day.
before.
Yeah.
We've gotten some.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
something that you might do in your
Waking up
daily
early.
routine.
I mean, hey,
Is it
what-
sexual or non-sexual?
You can make it sexual if you
the
want to.
fuck you
Give
want.
some
Hey, but
sex tips.
it could be like remember what we talked about diet a lot, and you come in and working out, and I told you to put more carbs into your diet so you could work out better. But little things like that, things that have made you
Yeah.
feel better.
Yeah, just like a daily habit. You know what I think my biggest and best daily habits is in the morning. I try to visualize what few issues. I'm really big into Timothy Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week, where he talks about like instead of trying to accomplish 37 things, set one or two. Right.
Yep.
So I set one or two that I want to get done that day, and at the end of the night, I always reflect on the progress of the day. And I'm not talking about deep thought, whatever, but just take 5-10 minutes to reflect on it. And I find that I can assess like daily activities really well, and then that helps drive the next day's goals. So just, in other words, we live in this freaking junk food for the brain culture right now with all this social media and TV and all that. And I think just to clear yourself of that and take those few moments to think about those things,
Yeah, that reminds. The podcast I sent you, the Jordan Peterson one, and he talks about knowing, like understanding where you are. That's kind of the beginning of the day, it's something you want to accomplish, and then understanding where you're going and then where you went. The same thing the whole day. You're setting the day up where you want to go, where you are, where you want to be, and at the end of the day, you're tracking your progress where you went to. So the next day, you can see where you are for that day and where you're gonna go. And understand that. I like that one. That's a very good one.
That's a very good tip.
Which, in all fairness, so I thank you guys for saying that, but I've been listening to some of your podcasts. You tell everybody that they're the best. So
I didn't tell you you're the best. I didn't tell you that.
We did.
all right.
Whoa, shit.
Okay.
Everything's falling apart.
Yeah,
Everything's
yeah,
falling
yeah.
apart.
My chair just buckled out from me. All right, I'm back. We're good.
I guess the only other one I can think of is if you have any supplements or no, you asked that one. No, not the supplements. I know you don't take supplements. I'm just kidding. No, I want to any item that you've bought that's under $100 that you like that was really it's more valuable to you than what the price of it was.
Any item that I've bought for less than $100 that is valuable to me, I gotta think about that one.
We've gotten European adapter.
For traveling, like
Oh yeah, we did do that. You're right.
What else have we gotten?
accessory. It could be like an accessory for your phone, or something little, something you got on Amazon Prime or something. Just
Let me think.
Amazon, send us free stuff.
And it has to be 100 or less.
I'm actually, when I was thinking about this one for him, I was like, I'd actually be curious if he just said we just took off the dollar amount and just.
What was the most valuable thing you bought?
Well, I mean, because I got to tell you that
Personally.
one of my best tools right now is I love my headphones. I got some nice Bose headphones.
Yeah, I've seen you wear those when we were walking in.
Yeah, I make all my phone calls with them. I work out with them, like when I do my runs and all that. Headphones have really evolved. It allows me to be hands-free. They're so comfortable. I don't even like feel. I know I'm shrinking over here, aren't I?
I saw that.
Yeah, I feel like my chair.
Zoop.
Yeah, I feel like my chair.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, I love my headphones. I love being hands-free when people call me. I don't know about you guys, but it is a pain in the ass to hold, especially cell phones. They're not ergonomically designed. They're squares.
Yeah.
To hold that against your ear, around your neck for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever.
Nope.
So I got everything synced to my headphones.
How much did you spend on the headphones?
You know, those ones you can probably spend $100 to like $299. I went with the plush, you know, soft on the ears.
Louis Vuitton.
No, they're the Bose.
Yeah.
It's Bose, but it's like you don't even feel like they're on, put it that way.
Yeah.
And they're sport. I can run, I can sweat with them and all that. Listen to podcasts and stuff like that, you know?
There's a new headphones that came out that I really want. They're called Neurophones. And you put them on, and they like you have an app that they connect to, and they tell you like to readjust it to fit better around your ear. And then when it's positioned correctly, you hit this button, and it sends signals into your ears, and it reads the how your ears hear sound, and then it customizes the sound settings for your brain.
That's really awesome. And what are those run?
I think those are in the 400 ballpark.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's not very bad either.
But they are, you can just YouTube reaction videos of these things, and people like they have high-end production studio artists and things like that, and music artists, and they're like people crying. Like it's like when you see people put on those colorblind glasses and they've never seen the colors before. It's like those kind of reactions where people are like, "Holy shit, I've never heard sound like this before." But those Bose are.
Yeah,
Those
Joe's like, well, I don't fucking want.
It's like, I don't want those anymore.
Yeah.
But no,
It's a fucking lot now.
Bose are legit, though. And they're $200 cheaper. So,
All right, you got one more.
yeah. What?
One more. Or no?
Let's not do the supplement one because he just told me he doesn't take
I don't
supplements.
take supplements. I think he might.
Biggest fear? I mean, that might be a good perspective coming from.
Yeah, I really don't take any supplements for two reasons.
He bypasses it. He's like, nope, not doing
No. Well, I mean, one of the things that you learn, I'm sure everybody knows, your best form of getting something is not through supplementation. It's actually like eating it, you know?
Let food be thy medicine.
I'm a vegetarian, by the way. What happened?
He's like leaning out of the scene.
Oh, okay. I could
Beers in
eat
them.
12, 13 vegetables in one meal. I mean,
Say that again?
I could eat 12, 13 vegetables. Like my wife, other people, they'll cook. And I make sure that I'm not that kind of vegetarian that's eating pasta with a few veggies in it. No, I'm eating like 12, 13 different veggies all mixed in. So I get most of like my nutrition that way. And then also too, I just don't want to play around. So earlier you were talking about like TRT. One of the things that like I've read, sometimes if you've had any kind of a heart issue, like you want to be careful.
Yes,
So
that
just
is
in
true.
case, I even have like, vegan protein powder. You know, just on a side note, I think that life comes full tilt, and so, I'm a young, good-looking dude, got a nice job, got everything going on, and I'm like on dates, and I was the kind of guy, I knew at a certain age, I wanted to settle down. I got tired of being with people and then waking up the next morning like, oh, fuck, why are you here? And how am I going to get rid of you? And I can remember on Sundays having to get dressed up just so she'd leave and be like, I got to go to work. And just go drive around
On
the
a
corner.
Sunday.
So she would leave, you know what I mean?
That's great. That's
Okay, Joe.
That's a good one. That's a good one, though.
Go to work on a
Yeah.
Sunday.
So, I even forgot what.
You said it. Well, you said life comes full circle. I'm wondering where you're getting to. I do that a
okay.
lot with you.
So when I was on dates, I remember that if the person I was like on a date with, she's like, "Hi, I'm sorry, but I don't want this meal. Can you take out this and put extra broccoli, substitute this, substitute that, substitute this?" And I'm like, "Oh shit! If she's like that with her food, well, how's she gonna be like in a relationship?" So that was usually like 3 points against you. And so,
Look at you now.
yeah, hey, I gave you 6, 7 points. So, maybe you took a dump with the door open too many times. You lost 2 more points, whatever. The point is that I just think the irony, that's me now at the restaurant, That's me.
Boca burger with
Oh no! I'm like, can you take the bacon out, and can you put this? Can I get some asparagus, but cooked with it and cut up inside of it, and blah blah blah. So,
and they're like, yeah, I guess.
cost you $20.
oh, I'm at Yard House the other day, and this big burly guy sitting next to me. He's like, hey, I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey, the pizza's good, man. It's on happy hour. And I'm like, I don't need no freaking pizza. I have that cholesterol in the cheese, and saturated fat. So then I'm over here trying to be all macho, and I order the Gardein bowl. I'm like, yeah, let me get the Gardein, which is like a tofu substitute with no rice and a lot of veggies. Okay. He looks at me, and he didn't say a word to me the rest of the time we were there.
Conversation ender.
It's like,
Yeah.
You're Smirnoff.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, we appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your experiences and insights. It's been great.
No, and I appreciate you guys having me on here, and I hope the viewers can just, if they can take one thing out of my story, it'd be awesome. And if anybody here wants to learn about how to invest in real estate, I got a program. It's Flipping Unleashed. Go on my website. Go check it out on YouTube.
Is it just flippingunleashed.com?
Yes.
Okay.
And, I've conquered a lot of other things, and since what happened to me, I have like a new goal in life, and that is I want to build like hundreds of Joes, and I've always wanted to do that, and obviously what happened to me motivated me to finally get up and make it happen.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, dude, we really appreciate you doing this, giving us insight into your story. I'm really happy to finally get the opportunity to talk in a long-form conversation about what happened to you as well. And I'm super inspired by you, man. Proud of you. And,
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it, and in life you just got to keep plugging along and move forward.
Yeah. So a little side note, everybody. So YouTube we're still working on our SEO, search engine optimization on there. So if you want to find us on YouTube, there are a couple different ways. You can go search for our channel and then go to the filters and click channels and we'll pop up. Or we put our videos on every single one of our blogs. So if you go to our website, todayseverything.com, you can just watch our videos there. If you want to see our ugly mugs.
Yeah,
So
go check it out. All right, guys.
all right.
Love you
Well,
guys.
when you say ugly mug, you're speaking for yourself, right?
I am
No, I'm
absolutely
kidding.
We're talking about the one the camera's pointing directly.
No. No, trust me. I know I'm ugly because when I was born, the doctor started slapping the nurses. So they'd stop laughing at me.
Jokes you told me.
Yeah.
Way to end it. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Cut them off. Old cheesy jokes.
All right, guys.
Love you guys.
Love
All
you
right.
guys. Have a good one.
Thank you guys very much.
Peace out.